First, I'll be talking with my new friend, David Cobb of Move to Men. David, I believe from our conversations we had earlier this morning, is also a member of the Green Party. And if I did my research right, is a former presidential candidate as well. So this is really exciting. And then later in the show, I will speak with Michael Salomon, patron saint of the way. And we'll talk about his piece that just dropped today, A Tale of Two Conventions. So David Cobb, because you guys know my producer's also name is David. So I have a lot of Davids in the house tonight. David Cobb, thank you so much. How are you this evening?
I'm doing mighty fine. I know it's a pleasure to be with you, and David, to meet you. And I'm actually going to hang in and listen to your next segment because I was both in Cleveland as well. So I'm going to be both a guest and a participant in the second segment.
Okay, sweet. Wonderful. So it's just so much going on, but how was that? I mean, we first spoke ahead of the People's Convention, actually. And for just a refresher, everyone, People's Convention took place the Saturday before the Democratic National Convention. Was, a convergence, meeting of the minds. I mean, there were so many different events that happened during the DNC week too, but can you just talk just a little bit about, that experience and then also some of the other things you were telling about from that week as well?
Sure. So I want to be very straight up, Anoa, with you and your viewers. I am a revolutionary. I'm a nonviolent revolutionary, but I am absolutely a revolutionary because I know that we can't just tinker at the margins of this current racist, sexist, class oppressive system. We really have to restructure society. And as such, straight up, I was originally not going to go to Cleveland or to Philly. 2 months ago, I had actually said, looky here, I've been to most of those protests and demonstrations, and I had come down on, I'm tired of shouting at buildings, right? I mean, I do protest, I go to demonstrations, but my rule is I have to give the drive to it. It has to be within, say, 300-400 miles of me, so it's my basic community, right? But otherwise, just to be another body in the streets, it's not worth the fossil fuels. It's not worth my staff time as a Move to Men organizer. It's just not worth it to just go and shake my fist. But then I started to get contacted by Imam Paul Hassan in Cleveland, Greg Coleridge with the American Friends Service Committee, the Catholic Ministries, who wanted me there to be part of something that they were calling the People's Convention for Justice and Peace, which they were describing as a participatory process where not only Cleveland organizers, but key people from across the country who worked on peace, justice, democracy, ecological protection were coming together to create a people's platform process. And I kid you not, Anoa, within the same, say, 48 hours, I then learn about the people's process in Philadelphia, where the same thing was happening through Jackrabbit and Shauna and the others, where you and I met. And I said, something is happening here, because I've been to all of the other DNC and RNC protests, and very seldom workshops maybe, but never this level of highly participatory, independent motion where a interconnected platform gets created together. And looky here, they did not know that they were they had not talked to each other yet, but they were both doing it in both places. So I just wanted to share with your viewers the sense I have something is different. And I experienced that in the streets of Cleveland. I experienced it in the streets of Philadelphia. And then to ease into the big picture, I'll tell you, I think we have to just name it. And that is this. We are living in historic times. That is to say, an ecological crisis. It's not coming, it's here and getting worse. An economic crisis. It's not coming, it's here and getting worse. Oh, and by the way, any of y'all who thought that the mortgage debt crisis was bad, which it was, wait, because the Democrats and Republicans have basically recreated the entire structure and formula. It's coming back. And if you think that was bad, and it was, wait till this student debt crisis hits. It's about 10 times bigger. So we have an an economic crisis. And here's the other thing. Capitalism can't solve this economic crisis. Capitalism is this economic crisis. So then you add the political crisis, where more and more people are experiencing that the institutions don't work for them. That all representative democracy was supposed to work and supposed to be responsible to organize people coming together. The system doesn't work. That's why the Trump phenomenon and the Sanders phenomenon both erupted as maverick campaigns. I know I'm talking a lot, Anoa, but I wanted to give the big picture first to say this moment that we're in, and then let's add Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, Move to Amend, the campaign to abolish corporate personhood, the 15 Now movement, the climate justice movement. All these various, they cannot be contained within or controlled by the leadership of the Democratic Party as it currently operates. These movements are either going to fundamentally, inextricably transform the existing Democratic Party, or they will destroy it. I just don't think that they can any longer be contained where Wall Street financiers and Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street and Move to Amend and the climate justice movements can actually be in the same political moment or in the same political organization.
We even saw that tension. Yeah, exactly. We even saw that tension. And I'm sure Michael will get to it a little bit when he comes on to talk. But we even saw that tension when you look at who was speaking, right, at the convention itself. You have your mothers of the movement, and then you have Bloomberg, Mr. Stop and Frisk, Mr. Black Men Shouldn't Own Guns, all on the same stage, all hailing the same, queen, so to speak, for lack of a better term. And it's very, very, it's not even just tenuous. It's very, it's not tenuous. It's not complicated. It's incongruent. Exactly. I mean, Movement for Black Lives, as everyone knows, or if you guys don't know, just released this really brilliant platform. It's a year-long process that several different groups and dozens of individuals have been working on really hard. Jack had reached out to them in terms of the People's Convention process, but we knew they had already been working on this process. And I really would encourage anyone that's interested in doing any of this work and movement platforms and things like that should definitely read their platform and adopt it, embrace it, help make it come into fruition, because it's expansive, it's phenomenal. But that platform, right, that spirit, that document, that action that's necessary cannot exist within who the DNC is welcoming into the party. I mean, we're excited to have, Republican, basically refugees almost, coming in to vote for Hillary, where these are the same people that work with state and local, Republican leaders to gut voting rights across the country, for just one example.
Right.
And just one example. So I agree with what you're saying about this current. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I appreciate, that's just one example. There are so many, and that's the reason why I was so excited when I started to, frankly, learn about you, Anoa, and watch some of your stuff. I mean, looky here. I did my due diligence, right? I mean, so I have a sense of you and where you're coming from. And what you represent, which for me is authentic calls for transformational change. I know that you are working within the Democratic Party as much as possible, but I also see that you are first and foremost authentic about what your demands are. So to me, looky here, I'm a green, right? And I'm a green because not out of idealism, but my cold, calculated analysis about what it's going to take to actually win, right? Because I worked on Jesse Jackson's campaigns in 1984 and 1988. I worked on Jerry Brown's campaign in 1992. Bill Clinton turned me into a green with NAFTA, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the Telecommunications Act of 1996, No Child Left Behind. I go down the list, right? And frankly, I mark my words. Bill Clinton created the Green Party. Hillary Clinton is going to grow it, because of the neoliberal agenda that they represent. And again, nothing personal. It is just the trajectory historically of what we're experiencing. The other thing I want to point out is this. A political revolution cannot be won, W-O-N, by any one candidate, no matter how great she or he is. A political revolution cannot be run, R-U-N, in just one election cycle. A real political revolution requires sustained effort, an analysis around how power operates, and a strategic plan, not just to tinker at the margins, but to transform social, political, and economic institutions. That's the reason, as a Move to Amend organizer, to address the illegitimate court-created idea that corporations are persons with inherent and inalienable constitutional rights is my excitement to be working with you and others like you for a constitutional amendment. Because as a lawyer, you know what I know. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And this land is fundamentally racist, it's fundamentally sexist, and it's fundamentally class oppressive. Oh, and these huge transnational corporations are literally going to destroy the planet that we depend upon for life itself if we do not stop them. The Move to Amend campaign is a way to peacefully, and I say lovingly, wage nonviolent revolution in a winning way. And so, to me, all of the things that are in motion now, they've just not been in motion before, Anoa. And this idea, I've got an idea that I'm going to start to float on this program. The Cleveland Peace and Justice Coalition and the platform that was created through that participatory process, the People's Convention and the participatory platform created through that process in Philly, post-election, let's gather together those two forces and continue to massage and build an independent political demand, independent of the leadership of both of the two parties, of any party for that matter. A political demand where we, the people, are saying what we expect our politicians, our elected officials, and anybody seeking our votes to respond to us. And get this, I'm talking about the day after the election so that there's no lame duck TPP passed on us, to make sure that whoever the lame duck, that our movement continues, so post-election. And then get this, post-inauguration, let's convene back to back immediately after the election and immediately after the inauguration to basically say we are not governable by the old rules of where the elites tell us what we have to accept. Let's take a lesson from Africa, North Africa, South and Central America, the global South, where they actually organize mass movements to force political establishments to react and respond to them rather than us go on bended knee to them. It's a different mindset.
Definitely. So in thinking about Move to Amend, can you just give just a little background? Like I love that. I've looked at the website. I love the idea, but can you just who came together? Like how did this come about?
Well, look here.
Where's the process? What do you need to do?
So we are serious. We are going to amend the United States Constitution to abolish the illegitimate court-created idea, one, that corporations are persons with constitutional rights, and also the equally odious, also court-created idea that money is political speech and can't be regulated through campaign finance laws. Both of those two doctrines are not just court decisions. They're not just individual laws. They're doctrines, right, that have been created by the court that has stolen our sacred right to self-government. And as a lawyer, what really pisses me off, not only have they stolen our sacred right to self-government, but they're using the legal system to legitimize the theft. They're telling us that that's the law. You just have to accept it. Well, we at Move to Amend say, ya basta, enough already. We don't have to accept that any more than our forebears accepted that no black man has any rights that a white man is bound to respect. Remember, that's what the Supreme Court said in the Dred Scott decision, or Minor versus Hepperset, the equally odious opinion that said women are not persons for the purposes of the 14th Amendment, and therefore the laws preventing women from voting didn't violate the Equal Protection Clause. Or how about the Supreme Court decision in Plessy versus Ferguson that said separate but equal does not violate the Equal Protection Clause, which is outrageous on the English language. I mean, you get an F in a logic class, right? Separate but equal doesn't violate equal protection, doesn't make any damn sense. And yet that's what the court said. Here's the point, Anoa. It's not just a legal argument. It is a fundamental call of, and check this out. For white folk, we call it a democracy movement. For folks who come out of the African liberation movement or who've studied that, we could say this is actually merely about self-determination. For folks who study or come out of the Central America or South American liberation movements, we would say this is a movement about autonomy. But here's the thing. All of those at their core are the same concept. We're supposed to be able to govern ourselves, right? Right. Collectively, we get to make the decisions about how our society operates. And nothing scares the ruling elite more when white folks and black folks and brown folks and poor folks and women begin to actually cut across those divides and in an authentic way, don't become class reductionist, right? Because I believe that your experience as a black woman has impacted your life and you have a perspective and a knowledge that I don't have, right? So I'm going to lift up the concept of your identity and the importance of it, and then say, let's not transcend it. Let's incorporate it into my lived experience as a poor white man and what that meant growing up. And at the end of the day, when we start to find our commonalities around principles and values, we've actually got much more power than we realize, but we have to collectivize our power. So Move to Men has this concept, right? We need to amend the Constitution. To do it, we have to build a mass movement that is multiracial, multi-ethnic, intergenerational. We need young folk, middle-aged folk, elders, and we need to actually have a plan. Move to Men has a 10-year strategic plan. It's in writing. We put it on our website, movetomen.org. It's on the front page. We don't hide at all about what our plan is. The last thing I want to share is Move to Men is an explicitly feminist, anti-racist organization. We are progressive and we're proud of it. But get this, Anoa, we relate in an authentic way with principled conservatives. We say, you don't have to join us at Move to Men on our core commitment to race and gender and sexual orientation. If you just want to work on the proposed amendment, then let's work together on that, right? So we can authentically who we are. Move to Men is a progressive organization, getting larger, stronger, better organized every day, and we relate to progressives. And when I say we're growing, check this out. We were 12 people in a living room in 2010. Today, we're 408,000 people. We've helped 17 states pass resolutions of support of some sort of constitutional amendment. 650 communities have passed resolutions of support. City council or county commissioners voting to support. My favorite statistic, we've been on 350 ballots, Anoa. That's where not just city council members vote, but ordinary citizens get to vote. Right. We've won every single one of them. We haven't lost yet. And we win in both liberal places like San Francisco and Boston, but we also won in Salt Lake City, Utah. We won in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is the hometown of Republican Tea Party Governor Scott Walker. They haven't voted for a Democrat for president or Congress in 40 years in Waukesha. We were on the ballot there. We won 70% of the vote. And get this, we were on the ballot in Montana. Yes, y'all, that Montana. The most politically, culturally conservative place you can imagine. Move to Men was on the ballot. We won 74% of the vote there. So when I say that we are building a progressive organization, that is objectively true. When I say that we are relating in an authentic way with conservatives, where there is common ground, that is also true. By every objective measurement, Anoa, this movement is growing. And frankly, I think viewers of The Way with Anoa ought to be joining us, right? We ought to be
Okay.
figuring out ways to work together. Because here's the last thing I want to say, big picture wise, about Move to Mend. We've
Right.
never been covered a single time by the corporate media. That amazing track record. By the way, 22 co-sponsors in Congress. We only had 3 last session. We've got 22 now, including a Republican, right? So this should be you would think this would be a huge story. The corporate media has not covered us at all. The only reason we're growing is because of the internet, social media, and citizen journalists like you, who are beginning to tell our story without the filter of the corporatist and the militarist who have actually controlled us in the past. So if you, as a viewer of The Way with Anoa, are excited by this, go to the website, movetomend.org, and sign the petition, not because we're submitting that petition on bended knee to anyone, but because this is an organizing effort. This is how we've been so successful, because we're bringing people together into a shared analysis to actually wage peaceful revolution.
I love it. Awesome. That's one of the things that we continue to talk about across my show, Ben's show. All of us keep talking about, okay, even before Bernie Sanders, conceded and, the primary was done, we've been saying, we got to start talking like long game. We got to start talking about next movement. This is one of the reasons why I want to have this conversation with you. Also, with the Green Party convention coming up and with the surge that the Green Party is seeing, I kind of wanted to, even though I didn't necessarily bring you on here to be a Green Party guest, but I want to just pick your brain just for a few more minutes, because you're just such a wealth of knowledge, and I'll have to have you back again.
I want to come back.
Okay, I want you. Yay! I told you you're my new friend. Like, seriously. But just think about what you were just talking about with the Move to Men and organizing and really connecting with people around issues that are common, regardless of like the other ideological and political spectrum differences. I think that's like a brilliant strategy, and we do need to see how we can do more of it, because at the end of the day, conservative, liberal, progressive, whatever, there are certain basic tenets, certain basic practices that we all have in common, because we all got to live and breathe and exist in the same place. And having, as we have seen, even though diphtheria, that's my name for Donald Trump, I call him diphtheria, diphtheria's abbreviation is DT. But diphtheria and pertussis, yeah. But anyway, so the kids are going back to school. We just had to make sure all the shots and stuff were updated. So yeah. Anyway, my daughter was like, "Did you know?" It's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to use that one. But anyway, but what I was saying is that just thinking about, as we look towards, the surge in the Green Party. I know we had an exchange earlier at the wee early hours in the morning about how the Democrats will tolerate someone like Nina Turner. They'll tolerate someone like me. I really highly doubt Democrats will tolerate me. I haven't been a Democrat in 6 years, and I don't plan on running for office as a Democrat, so I'm free to say I've been an independent for 6 years. In Georgia, they have some weird litmus test thing they'll pull out to kind of try and disqualify you. But anyway, but just thinking about just a few minutes, if you just have a few minutes, just take on the Green Party. You said Bill Clinton made you go green. What we're seeing now with the growth, with seeing people going into the party, what your impression is of the strategy and kind of what's going on and what we can look for, from the Green Party.
Again, Anoa, like my Green Party commitment is not idealism. It is just cold, calculated analysis that to get to the world that I want, as hard as it is to form an alternative political party, it's probably easier and more effective to do that than to try to work within a party that has allowed the corporate cash to become like a cancer that is mastitized within that entire body structure. And then I'm taking your viewers back to this note. Historically, here's what it took alternative political parties to champion at the ballot box: the abolition of slavery, women getting the right to vote, the creation of the Social Security Administration, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation laws, pure food and drug laws, ending child labor, the direct election of the United States Senate. Anoa, the very fabric of what we today consider the bare damn minimum for a just and compassionate society, that fabric was woven together by people who were at the time called third parties, or alternative political parties, right? So if we want to live in a different world, not just hope for it or talk about it, but actually abolish war as foreign policy.
Right.
If we want to transition completely away from coal and oil and nuclear power to full sustainable renewable energy, if we want to guarantee a genuine living wage for everyone, if we want to actually dismantle the World Trade Organization, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, if we want to actually make the U.S. money, abolish the private Federal Reserve and actually make the U.S. money supply actually democratic, where we control our own economy through a democratic process. See, these are revolutionary things. If we want to do those things, I believe we have to be for them at the ballot box, because I believe that transformational change has got to be done this way. The last thing I want to point out is
right.
This. I know that Bernie Sanders is currently calling for, the Sanders Institute, and he says, let's transform the Democratic Party. Anoa, I'm a little bit older than you, right? So I'm going to take you back and your viewers back to 1984 and my work on Jesse Jackson. And I learned a lot with working for Jesse in 84 and 88. As a white person, I learned for the first time, honestly, how to genuinely put myself under the leadership of people of color. I learned about Palestine and international trade laws and the horrors associated with U.S. foreign policy. I learned about organized labor. But you know what else I learned? That the Democratic Party's presidential primary is where progressive politics goes to die, because all that energy and excitement and enthusiasm gets completely subsumed and then squashed by the Democratic Party leadership and the corporatist militarists who control that party. And now I'm going to give you a litany. In 84 and 88, Jesse Jackson said, we were squashed by the corporatist militarists, but we had the best ideas and the most enthusiastic supporters. I know what let's do. Let's transform the Democratic Party by creating the Rainbow Push organization to change the Democratic Party. Then comes Jerry Brown in 1992. The same experience, enthusiasm, excitement of progressives, squashed by the corporatists and the militarists. He says, I know what let's do. Let's create a new organization to transform the Democratic Party. That was called the We the People organization. Fast forward to Dennis Kucinich, the same phenomenon, progressive energy, enthusiasm, squashed by the corporatist militarists. He says, I know what let's do. Let's form Progressive Democrats of America to transform the Democratic Party. Fast forward to Howard Dean, enthusiasm, the excitement, squashed by the corporatist militarists. I know what let's do. Let's form an organization to shift the Democratic Party. That was called Democracy for America. Barack Obama did it. He turned his campaign into Organizing for America. With all due respect, Bernie Sanders has been right about almost everything, but everybody gets to be wrong at least once. Bernie Sanders is wrong that he thinks an organization can transform the Democratic Party. That shit don't work. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't. That's my rant.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. I may have to give you like a 5-minute rant segment every once in a while. That was pretty good. I appreciate you so much.
I'm going to actually, because I know that when you're about to do a segment from Philly to the RNC to the DNC, and I hate to put your guest on the hook like this, but I'm going to now be a viewer because I know we're about to segue, and I would love to hear if he thinks I'm crazy. He thinks I'm partly right.
I'll ask him. Yeah, I'll ask him that first, though.
I don't know.
Thank you.
So we are going to talk again, right?
We are definitely going to talk again. I'll probably shoot you a message as soon as I'm done, but to schedule a conversation so we can follow up more, because we have a lot of different things in the air now to follow up. But I'll definitely have you back to talk more, not just about Move to Men, other work, as well as, the Green Party and moving forward. One thing that I would like to see is with third party options really becoming, everyone says, well, third parties aren't viable, that they're not viable. It's the chicken and the egg conversation, right? They're not viable if we're not voting. We're not voting because they're not viable. How do we help build and grow opportunities? I really love what I've seen out of the Baltimore Greens so far, and Josh Harris and that whole crew out there.
Harris is the bomb.
I would love to see him win. I would love to. I definitely want to talk to you some more about that and how do we help grow not just our movement work, but also how do we grow third party, opportunities. So I appreciate you. Thank you.